Before we get into the video, I have some more league partner codes to give away. This time we are giving away codes for Kibblehead Kled. These codes will unlock the champion Kled if you do not already own him, as well as the skin, and finally the exclusive green chroma. For a chance to win one of these codes, make sure you leave a like on the video, make sure you are subscribed to the channel, and comment the keyword Kled down in the comment section below. Best of luck in the giveaway and enjoy the video. This is going to be my support tier list for patch 13.8. As always, I currently have every support champion listed here in order of win rate, from highest to lowest based on how they finished last patch. Always worth mentioning, win rate is not everything. This is kind of a baseline that I set for myself. We'll look at some of the changes and I'll talk about how some of these champions don't necessarily belong this high on the list just because of their win rate, but we'll go over that later. Let's go ahead and jump into the patch notes here. When it comes to supports, there are 3 supports that are going to be changed in this patch. The first one is going to be a Rakan nerf, which is honestly about time. Rakan is like my favorite champion. It's the champion I've been abusing all season long for free LP. And I even though I'm going to be losing, that opportunity to get more free LP moving forward, it was very much deserved. I'm not going to be delusional here and say that Rakan wasn't in, a really broken state, because I can look over here and see that with a near 16% pick rate, very high for those guys who don't know, he had almost a 54% win rate. So anytime you see a champion that is being played a lot and winning a lot, clear sign that the champion is broken. Well-deserved nerf. We'll get to that eventually. As for some buffs, there's going to be one for Janna, one for Leona. The Janna one, I actually don't think is super necessary. The Leona one kind of is necessary. We'll scroll down here. We'll start with Janna because she's the first one that pops up. So Janna is a champion that, like I said, I don't think is one that necessarily needed a buff. Looking up something on my other monitor here, a D2 plus last patch, Janna was picked at a 3.6% pick rate, which isn't a ton. So maybe the buffs are trying to get her played more commonly, because not to say that she's not strong, but she just isn't seen as much as some other enchanters like the Lulu and the Yumi that we've seen throughout the course of this season. But even with a 3.6% pick rate in D2 plus, she had a 51.64% win rate. That's a decent win rate, 51%. If you look back here, that's what I consider to be pretty average. So if they're average, I don't think they're necessarily in need of a buff or a nerf. I think they're in a good spot. But again, maybe that pick rate is just something that, Riot's not too happy with, and they want to see her more common in the meta. So what they're going to be changing here, W damage increased, E shield decay timer increased. So in this patch, they're giving Janna some more ability to be a little bit more aggressive in the lane phase. Maybe that is a change that they're implementing as a way to, inspire lower ranked players to play Janna, because, in higher ranked players, when this champion is in a strong position, they're already playing her really aggressive in the lane phase, and she can already be really, really annoying to play up against. So I can already see this change getting a little out of control in higher ranks. And lower ranks, people who play enchanters don't typically utilize what their champion is capable of doing early game. I think of champions like Nami, Janna, and Soraka. These are champions that have the ability to play aggressive early and trade, but people just aren't utilizing it all too much. So this change might get that pick rate up. It might encourage some lower ranked players to play her a little bit more aggressive. But again, I am a little worried about how this is going to impact higher ranks. Also here, shield decay timer. So wow, that's actually a huge change. So the shield before would only last 1.25 seconds, meaning you had to be really precise with the timing on it. You don't want to just use it for the sake of using it. But now you can get away with using it at poor timing because it's going all the way up to 2.5 seconds. So I'm actually really worried about this change and just making Janna in a position in the game that she's just not fun to play against. This seems like it could get a little out of control. So something I'll be monitoring next patch to see how much she actually moves. Currently, like I said, already had a 51% win rate. I think this is going to bump her up for sure. I don't know if she's going to cross the threshold into 52. This might be a bit of an overreaction, but I think it might bump her up that 1% up into 52, which is pretty strong. I'm a little worried about how strong she might be moving forward. But like I said, something we will monitor moving forward. Also worth mentioning, Riot is sometimes a little stubborn when it comes to the champions that they are buffing and nerfing. Sometimes when they buff a champion and it's clearly too much of a buff, they are stubborn in the sense that they won't change it right away. Sometimes they'll leave it up for a couple patches. Something like we saw with Rakan. He is eventually getting nerfed this patch, but he got buffed a few patches ago. He's been broken for like a month or two now, and it just seems like they weren't willing to make that change back. They didn't want to admit that they were wrong. So like it's going to be interesting to see with Janna if she really is as broken as I think she might be after this buff, if they're willing to change it back after maybe some data supports that. But we'll just have to wait and see. Scrolling down here to Leona. So Leona is a champion that I'm a little nervous to see them buffing, but I do think it is very much deserved. You can see here, even they say, she's often being eclipsed by other engaged supports. Let's pop back over here. When it comes to engaged supports, and we are in an engaged support meta, we see Rakan who can engage up here, Rel, Maokai, Blitzcrank, Pike, a lot of these champions that have engaged, even, the Tom Kench and the Nautilus up here, Alistar, they are all ranked above Leona. So I think this is just a little bit of a buff to try to keep her up to speed with all the other engaged supports in the game. My concern with Leona is she's another one of those champions that can just be very, very frustrating to play against when she's really strong in the meta, because the champion just has really easy engage, but also just so much CC compiled in that kit. So when she's strong and you're seeing her a lot, it's not a very fun experience to play up against. I'm a support main, but from the perspective of ADCs, if you ask an ADC main how they feel playing up against Leona when she's meta, I'm sure they're not too happy with it either. So that is one concern. I will say the direction that they're going with the buff, I like. She already has the super CC heavy kit, so I don't want to see that CC being up more often. I don't want to see her E or her Q or her R on like lower cooldowns or something like that. Instead, the direction that they're going is just making it so she does a little bit more damage and she can take a little bit more damage. So that might help her be a little bit more competitive with the other engaged supports, just because she already provides a lot of CC. So now if she can do more damage and take more damage while also applying that CC, it might bump her up a little bit in the meta. I don't want to overreact too much with this one. I think at the end of the day, she does have a pretty simplistic kit that can be pretty easy to avoid her engage at times. I think I'll put her somewhere in the middle here. Maybe slide her in right here, because I think she's going to be a little bit weaker than Alistar still, maybe similar or a little bit stronger than the Nautilus, so kind of putting them in between those two champions there, I think is going to be a good spot for her. Still, I think she's going to be outclassed by some of the other engaged supports that you see up here in the top tier list in strong, but I think this is a probably healthy change for her. Finally, we'll scroll down here until we find the Rakan change. I actually don't know what it is that they're changing about Rakan yet, but again, going into this, I already knew that this was very much deserved. So let's go on and see. Base armor decreased and armor growth decreased. Okay, so actually a pretty interesting change here. Let's read into a little bit of the reasoning behind it. So Rakan's win rate and presence have been ramping up since 13.3's buffs. Again, like I said, high pick rate, high win rate, clear sign that the champion's broken. And it's since their recent buff, and they've been taking a while to address it. 13.3 compared to 13.8 now. That's 5 patches where they haven't done anything to Rakan. So it is much deserved, especially in the higher skilled bracket of play like Xayah. We love this versatility and general shape. However, it's time to put him in line with other support champions by making him a little bit more vulnerable when he's missing his spells, while keeping those button presses fun. Okay, so what they are doing with this, their direction is when you engage as Rakan and you miss, you should die. Because he is an engaged support, but unlike every other engaged support in the game, he isn't also a tank. So if you go in as Leona, if you go in as Alistar, if you go in as Nautilus, you can take some damage while you're in the middle of fights. Rakan is kind of like an ebb and flow kind of champion where you need to be going in and out of fights and flowing very continuously. And now they are making it so that he's just going to be easier to kill. Less armor, less base armor, less armor growth. So if you go in and you aren't knocking people up, if you aren't charming people, while you are in the process of trying to get back out, you're going to be taking more damage. So I think this is going to hurt Rakan players who aren't as good with their engages, because you can't get away with as much. But I do think he's still going to be strong because his kit is remaining the same. You're still going to be able to engage just as often, just as effectively. It's just that if you mess it up, you might get punished a little bit more. So I actually like this for myself because I have a lot of faith in my ability to play Rakan. So if you're in a similar situation, if you feel like you play Rakan very well and you have solid engages, this isn't going to hurt you all too much, but this is going to punish the people who are messing up their engages when they do go in as your cons. So let's make one last change here. I do think it is going to bump him down, especially in lower ranks. I think you'll see his win rate drop a lot. But in higher ranks, I think he's going to remain to be pretty strong. Currently have him at a 53, almost 54% win rate. I don't think this is going to drop him down a full 2%. So we'll drop him kind of in the lower end here, probably low 52s. He might end up in like high 51, somewhere around here, but I don't think this change is going to be all that bad, especially for the higher ranked players. So that is going to wrap up the end of this tier list. Again, just the 3 changes to support in this patch. As always, if you guys made it this far into the video and you guys found this helpful, if you guys enjoyed this kind of video, I would really appreciate it if you could leave a like on the video and subscribe if you have not done so already. That'll do it for me. Until next time, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.